Next this evening, what cost to park at a hospital? Well, it might not surprise you that patients and visitors in and around London's hospitals are paying some of the highest charges in the country for the privilege. But the price just might. The Royal Surrey County has the highest hourly charge of £4, and it can cost almost £370 a week at some central London hospitals. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has all the details.
Paying to park every time her son needs hospital treatment is just one more worry for new mum Lily. When Junior was born 5 months ago, surgeons had to rebuild his heart. Now visits to their local hospital, the Royal Surrey County in Guildford, are a way of life.
I come here probably weekly and it's ridiculous what I have to pay because I've just been in there for 20 minutes and I've had to pay £4. And obviously all through my pregnancy I had to come up here weekly also. And it's hard to keep having to find the money because obviously I don't get anything back either, I don't get any help with it.
Olivia Gort is another patient frustrated by parking charges at the Royal Surrey. Her arthritis means regular visits to see a rheumatologist.
I have to come here probably, every 4 months? And that's a lot of money considering I've had to wait now before in the past 3 hours to get an appointment. And, you know, that's having to run backwards and forwards to have to top up my car parking. Also, when I came here for A&E, I didn't come in an ambulance, so I had to come out of A&E to go top up my car parking. And it's just extortionate.
Hospital car parking charges across London and the home counties are among the highest in England. Weekly parking at hospitals run by Imperial College Healthcare Trust in West London costs an eye-watering £369.60. Barnet Hospital in North London has had one of the biggest increases, up from £11 in 2014 to £70. And the Royal Surrey County Hospital in Guildford charges the most per hour, £4. From next month, even blue badge holders will be charged to park at the Royal Surrey, although they will be entitled to the same discount as cancer patients, a flat rate of £4 per visit. A spokesman for the Royal Surrey said the revenue from car parking is used to provide and maintain our car parks, and any additional income is put back into patient care. The full extent of hospital parking charges was revealed in a survey by a former minister.
No one goes to hospitals out of choice. No one. People go either because they're sick and they have to be treated, whether outpatient or inpatient, or they go because they have to see a friend or a relative. And it is unfair.
Junior's heart condition will mean a lifetime of hospital treatment. Almost certainly a lifetime of hospital parking fees. Simon Harris, ITV News, Guildford.
If it hadn't been for his quick reaction, Olivier Salbris's bus would almost certainly have killed the woman who was pushed into the road by a jogger on Putney Bridge. He managed to swerve around her, narrowly missing her head, and today he said it wasn't until he saw the pictures that he realised how close he was to hitting her. 4 months on, police still don't know who the jogger is, but Olivier said today he was sure he was pushed the woman deliberately. He spoke to our correspondent, Simon Harris.
Quick thinking doesn't do him justice. Olivier Salbris's lightning reaction was literally life-saving when a woman pedestrian bounced into the bus lane in front of his double-decker on Putney Bridge. Video from a bus in front revealed the shocking reason for the near miss. The woman was shoved off the pavement by a passing jogger.
I saw a man go in collision with a woman, and suddenly this woman, because she was falling, half of the body come towards the bus, so I had to really swerve to avoid this lady.
Mr. Salbris is in no doubt it was a deliberate act. The jogger overtakes a man on the bridge before pushing the woman.
He never actually tried to avoid it. The bridge was wide enough, the pavement was bright enough. It was a London Bridge. He had the time, he managed to see the first guy. Why he didn't do it with the lady? No, he pushed her. It was a deliberate push for her to fall.
The crime might have ended up as no more than a report on a police computer, but for the CCTV footage. A modern London bus is practically a television studio on wheels, bristling with cameras. On these double-deckers, there are 16. Detectives were able to retrieve this image of the jogger. Last month, police questioned 2 men on separate occasions. Both were 41, both were questioned on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm, and both were later released. The jogger's identity is still unknown. At Merton Bus Garage, Mr Salbris was being praised today by his bosses.
He's a one in a million guy, and he's done a really amazing piece of driving, great reactions, and to avoid a woman being pushed in front of him is just terrific driving.
What has the lady said to you since?
I haven't heard anything from her.
Not even a thank you?
No. But you know, you're probably a part of way to deal with it. So I don't really know anything about it. So I haven't heard from her. I hope she's okay.
The police might have drawn a blank in their hunt for the jogger, but there is overwhelming evidence of one indisputable fact in this case: the superior driver skills of Olivia Salbris. Simon Harris, ITV News, Putney.
Could Uber really be about to lose its licence in London? That's what Sadiq Khan will decide by the end of this month. And today there were strong accusations against the company, who claim the American firm is not a fit and proper operator. That's because, claims the All-Parliamentary Group on Taxes, police figures show there's an allegation of rape or sexual assault made against an Uber driver every 11 days. The MPs also accused Uber of failing to report crimes to the Met. So what will the mayor do? Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Love them or loathe them, the ubiquitous minicab is hard to avoid. The number of private hire cars in London has exploded. There are now almost 90,000, and at the forefront of this boom is the American taxi app firm Uber.
The perks of a taxi, but without the price.
It's really good. It was really cheap.
For me, it's too complicated.
Uber claims 3.5 million Londoners use the app to get around. There are more than 40,000 Uber drivers here. That's a third of the estimated 120,000 drivers of private hire vehicles in London. But now there's a question mark over Uber's very existence in London. 4 months ago, Transport for London refused to renew Uber's 5-year licence. Instead, it postponed its final decision until the end of September. With the Mayor and TfL possibly just days away from delivering their verdict, a group of London MPs from all parties is calling for Uber to be banned from the capital's streets.
Uber has shown itself not to be a fit and proper operator in this city. It's been criticised by the Metropolitan Police for its handling of serious allegations of rape and sexual assault in Uber vehicles.
The Mayor says the MP's concerns will be noted.
Well, the police have made their views clear on this. If it's the case that any taxi operator has a report made to them by a passenger, it's incumbent on the operator to report it to the police. As a source of concern to me that it is the case, according to the police, that in the past they've not been reported to the police. They must be.
In a statement, Uber said drivers who use Uber are licensed by Transport for London and have been through the same background checks as black cab drivers. Our technology goes further to enhance safety, with every trip tracked and recorded by GPS. Donald Wolfe is an American business executive who regularly uses Uber on both sides of the Atlantic.
They send you on the proper route, the proper trip. If you have problems with it, they come back and they refund your money or they give you a credit. Different things like that. If you lose something, they can bring it right back to you. You know who has it. It's the customer service aspect of it.
Uber's arrival in London transformed the way we use taxis and minicabs. If Uber is now forced to leave town, the effect will be just as seismic. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Hello. The chair of the inquiry into the Grenfell fire said his sole purpose is to search for the truth. Sir Martin Morbick said he wouldn't shrink from making recommendations that lead to criminal prosecutions, as his inquiry began exactly 3 months after the fire. But tonight there is still great mistrust and concern among survivors after he rejected calls for them to be represented on the inquiry's panel. Our correspondent Simon Harris was at the opening in central London.
Would you all rise, please?
He's the retired judge about to embark on a high-wire act. Today, Sir Martin Morbick took his first tentative steps on the tightrope that is the Grenfell Inquiry. He began by inviting 300 people to stand with heads bowed for a minute's silence. But it wasn't long before sighs of disappointment could be heard as Sir Martin ruled out including a member of the Grenfell community in his team of assessors.
To appoint as an assessor someone who had had direct involvement in the fire would risk undermining my impartiality.
It's taken 3 months to reach this point. The inquiry will investigate why the fire spread so quickly and so catastrophically. The response of the emergency services and the authorities will be examined. Recommendations will be made. But Sir Martin was also clear what his inquiry will not do.
My task is not to decide which of two or more competing parties has the better case, nor is it to punish anyone or to award anyone compensation.
Sir Martin said he hoped he could count on cooperation to ensure his inquiry went smoothly.
We share a common goal. We are all searching after the truth about the cause of the fire and the massive loss of life that it caused. And we owe it to those who died and to those whose homes have been destroyed to work together to achieve that goal.
But at this point, the barrister, Michael Mansfield, tried to ask a question on behalf of some Grenfell survivors. Sir Martin ignored him.
The conduct of the chair at the end of the meeting, in not addressing our concerns, was deeply distressing and disappointing.
He just walked out. It was very disgusting and disappointing, you know, it's very disrespectful.
It seemed to me to lack in humanity that the judge wasn't prepared to answer questions and delivered a very kind of dry analysis of what was going to happen. I think it was unfortunate.
Some of the survivors, relatives of the victims and local residents will be given the status of core participants in the inquiry. But there's concern that their lawyers might not be allowed to question witnesses.
If I'm not allowed to get those questions answered, and if others aren't allowed to get those answered, then what the hell is the point of this £15 million process? A £15 million debate about cladding? No, thank you.
Naturally, myself and members of the community survivors are not confident in the inquiry, but we're being optimistic and we're trying to keep an open mind.
Others poured scorn on the setting for today's hearing, the ornate Connaught Rooms in Holborn.
Sitting in a ballroom dripping with chandeliers says it all, actually, that we are from a different world and we're going to do this for you, little people.
This was day one. No one yet knows how long it will all take. Simon Harris, ITV News at the Grenfell Inquiry.
Hello again. This is ITV News London, and more on the terror incident at Parsons Green Tube Station this morning. Many of the 22 people in hospital are being treated for burns following the explosion on the District Line carriage. Meanwhile, passengers on the Central London-bound service have described scenes of panic. Our correspondent Simon Harris sent this report.
Not for the first time this year, the terrorists have struck in London. Not for the first time, they've chosen to target commuters, children on their way to school, Londoners on their way to work. The explosion on a District Line train heading from Wimbledon towards central London. Earlier, I spoke to one of the passengers on board, Shushen Warner.
I heard a big bang in my left-hand side, so I turned my head and I saw the big fireballs surge to my side. And that time, I realized why people were screaming, and people in front of me, because panic, people in front of me were shaking and then fell over, and I was pushing, and I fell over as well, and people on top of me. It's quite mess, you know.
The explosion brought the District Line to a standstill at the height of the rush hour. Passengers stranded on trains had to wait until they could be led to safety along the tracks.
I basically pulled in about 8:20 and we didn't get quite to the platform, but they said that something had happened. They didn't really tell us anything. I sat on the train for another hour and a half and we just got evacuated off it now. So,
walking down the tracks?
Yeah, walking down the tracks.
The eyewitness accounts, the van loads of police, the rapidly expanding cordon all pointed to one thing. And within 2 hours, Scotland Yard confirmed it was a terrorist attack.
The capital had seen a brief respite from the terror attacks of earlier this year until today. 12 years after the July the 7th bombing, once again people on their way to work were targeted. Terror has returned to the tube. This time, thankfully, no one was killed, but there were multiple injuries when an improvised bomb shot a fireball down a packed train in rush hour. We don't know who did it or where that person is tonight, but here's what we do know so far. It began at 8:20 this morning. The District Line tube from Wimbledon had stopped at Parsons Green on its way to Edgware Road. The emergency services were called after witnesses reported seeing a flash, followed by a loud bang and flames.
The device was found near the back of the train. The tube was suspended and passengers frantically tried to escape. By 10:20, Scotland Yard declared it was treating it as terrorism. 29 people have been treated in hospital, most suffering from flash burns. Our first report tonight comes from our correspondent, Simon Harris.
The flicker of flame behind the closing doors is from a homemade bomb designed to maim and kill. Thankfully, it seems this one was a dud.
Oh, is that bag's on fire?
The crude device was packed into a white plastic tub, hidden in a little carrier bag. Electrical wires can clearly be seen. It was 8:20. The District Line train was just pulling into Parsons Green, filling up with commuters on its journey into central London. Children on their way to school, Londoners heading for work.
I heard a big bang in my left-hand side, so I turned my head and I saw the big fireball.
The heat was so intense and the fireball just engulfed the whole tube carriage, like the whole carriage was orange.
People in front of me were shaking and then fell over, and I was pushing and I fell over as well, and people on top of me.
A wall of fire is just coming at us, and we just ran.
As passengers poured off the train onto the platform, the station stairs couldn't cope with the evacuation.
As I approached the station, everyone was like piling out. People weren't even running; they were falling over each other and just fleeing, I guess.
I was just so happy to not be the woman 3 people underneath me. You know, I looked at her and I thought, you're really, really injured.
With the District Line at a standstill, passengers on stranded trains had to wait before being led to safety along the tracks.
Basically pulled in about 8:20 and we didn't get quite to the platform, but they said that something had happened. They didn't really tell us anything. I sat on the train for another hour and a half and we just got evacuated off it now.
Convoys of police vans and ambulances headed for Parsons Green as this corner of southwest London echoed to the noise of sirens. By now it was clear some passengers had been injured. There were reports of flash burns and singed hair and people trampled underfoot in a stampede. The eyewitness accounts, the van loads of police, the rapidly expanding cordon all pointed to one thing. And within 2 hours, Scotland Yard confirmed London was once again the target of a terror attack. Throughout the morning, this suburban tube station was at the centre of a major operation involving all 3 emergency services. The area was flooded with police, many of them armed. Explosives experts had been gifted a relatively intact bomb, a crucial piece of evidence in the search for clues. It was thought to include a timer.
The investigation is being led by the Metropolitan Police Counter-Terrorism Command, part of the National Counter-Terrorism Policing Network. And there are many urgent inquiries ongoing now with hundreds of detectives involved, looking at CCTV, forensic work and speaking to witnesses.
We've got to make sure we're vigilant, we've got to make sure we're alert. It's really important that if anybody has any information or knows anybody acting suspiciously, they report this to the police.
For those involved and those injured, what should have been a normal Friday commute turned into a moment of terror and panic. But it could have been much worse. If the bomb had detonated as it apparently was intended to, or if it had happened a few minutes later when the crowded train was travelling not in the open, but in an underground tunnel. Simon Harris, ITV News, Parsons Green.